My name is Alex. Fresh out of college with a degree in supply chain management, I was eager to dive into the world of logistics. The silent, intricate network that keeps our global economy moving. I landed an entry-level position as a logistics coordinator at Global Freight Solutions, a seemingly reputable company with an impressive fleet of trucks and a vast network of warehouses. Their website boasted about efficiency, reliability, and cutting-edge technology. I genuinely believed I was joining a backbone industry, ensuring goods reached their destinations safely and on time. But beneath Global Freight Solutions' sleek corporate facade and the promise of seamless delivery lay a chilling secret. Their true efficiency wasn't built on smart algorithms or optimized routes. It was built on ruthless exploitation and pervasive illicit activities. Looking back, I wasn't just a coordinator in a legitimate business. I was an unwitting cog in a machine that prioritized profit above all else, even human lives and the law. My initial tasks involved tracking shipments and coordinating schedules. However, the first red flag was the systematic exploitation and brutal working conditions of their drivers. Global Freight Solutions had an alarmingly high turnover rate for their truck drivers. They were paid meager wages, often delayed, and subjected to impossible delivery deadlines. Drivers were routinely pressured to violate federal driving hour regulations, driving for 16 to 18 hours straight, fueled by caffeine and fear of losing their jobs. Maintenance on trucks was often neglected to cut costs, leading to frequent breakdowns and dangerous road conditions. "Alex, just make sure the truck is on the road," my supervisor, a gruff man named Frank, would bark. "If the driver's tired, tell him to drink more coffee. Deadlines are non-negotiable." The casual disregard for the driver's safety, and by extension, public safety, was alarming. Many drivers looked perpetually exhausted, their eyes redrimmed and distant. Then came the issue of rampant environmental violations and improper waste disposal. Global Freight Solutions publicly advertised its commitment to green logistics, but the reality was a stark contrast. I began noticing that certain special shipments were routed through remote areas, where hazardous waste was discreetly off, or illegal dumping sites were used to dispose of industrial byproducts from clients. Our trucks, many of which had faulty exhaust system, routinely belched black smoke, unchecked by any environmental regulations that the company simply ignored or bribed officials to overlook. The pursuit of cheap operations outweighed any environmental responsibility. I remember seeing internal memos about special disposal protocols that bypassed all standard environmental regulations, marked with codes that only senior management understood. It was a secret language for illegal dumping, and the sheer volume of waste involved was horrifying. Rivers turned murky, and local communities complained of strange odors. But Global Freight Solutions always denied responsibility. The most egregious deception involved the systematic use of legitimate shipping routes for illicit cargo and illegal trafficking. This was the true dark underbelly of Global Freight Solutions. Certain containers, marked with innocent-looking labels like textiles or machinery parts, were known to secretly carry contraband, from stolen goods and counterfeit products to endangered wildlife parts, and in some terrifying cases, even human beings. These special deliveries were coordinated by a shadowy department that operated with extreme secrecy, bypassing all standard customs checks through a network of corrupt officials and carefully timed border crossings. My role as a logistics coordinator meant I sometimes unknowingly handled documents for these shipments, the true nature of their contents hidden in plain sight. The chilling realization dawned on me. Global Freight Solutions wasn't just a logistics company. It was a sophisticated criminal enterprise masked by a professional facade. The efficiency, the reliability, the vast network, they were all part of an elaborate charade. Every time I tracked a shipment, knowing the potential human or environmental costs hidden within its cargo, I felt a cold knot in my stomach. The cargo's curse wasn't just about financial fraud. It was about systematically exploiting labor, destroying the environment, and facilitating dangerous illegal trade, all for the sake of boundless, illicit profit. The relentless exploitation of drivers and the blatant environmental disregard at Global Freight Solutions were already enough to shake my belief in the company. But as I became more entrenched in my role as a logistics coordinator, I began to uncover far more disturbing realities, revealing the company's true dark purpose, a sophisticated clandestine operation built on systemic corruption and a chilling indifference to public safety. I started noticing a pattern of disappearing paperwork and manipulated records. Certain shipments, particularly those associated with the Special Deliveries Department, would have incomplete or missing manifests. Tracking numbers would mysteriously vanish from the system, or delivery times would be deliberately falsified. Any attempt to question these discrepancies was met with vague explanations, stern warnings, or even threats of disciplinary action. It became clear that a significant portion of Global Freight Solutions operations was deliberately obscured, existing in a shadowy world beyond official scrutiny. Alex, some things are simply need to know, Frank, my supervisor, hissed one day, when I pressed him about a missing manifest. And you don't need to know. His eyes held a cold warning that made me back down. Then came the issue of bribes and deep-seated corruption within regulatory bodies. It became painfully evident that Global Freight Solutions operated with impunity because they had systematically compromised various regulatory and law enforcement agencies. Payments were regularly made, disguised as consulting fees or expediting charges, to customs officials, port authorities, and even local police. This ensured their illegal cargo passed unchecked, their environmental violations went unpunished, and their overworked drivers were rarely stopped for safety inspections. The efficiency they boasted was, in reality, a finely tuned machine of bribery and evasion, allowing them to bypass all legal and ethical barriers. I remember overhearing a phone call where a senior manager casually discussed a payment schedule to a Mr. X at the Port Authority, to ensure a certain container would sail through without a hitch. The casualness with which they talked about corruption was chilling, as if it were just another line item in their budget. The most egregious deception involved the intentional endangerment of public safety for maximum profit, the neglected truck maintenance, the fatigued drivers, and the transport of unregulated, often dangerous, illicit cargo combined to create an extremely volatile situation on public roads. I learned of multiple accidents that were conveniently covered up or blamed on external factors, but which were, in reality, direct consequences of Global Freight Solutions' reckless practices. These weren't mere mishaps. They were ticking time bombs on wheels, driven by exhausted individuals, carrying potentially lethal contents, all in the pursuit of cutting corners and maximizing illegal earnings. The pressure to simply do my job, to ignore the mounting evidence of widespread illegality and danger, became unbearable. My colleagues, many of whom were just trying to keep their jobs in a tough economy, either turned a blind eye or genuinely convinced themselves it was just how the industry works. It's not our problem, Alex, they'd rationalize. We just move the boxes. But I knew the truth. Silence was complicity, and the trail of destruction was getting longer. My sleep became restless, haunted by the images of broken-down trucks, the faces of desperate drivers, and the phantom contents of the unmarked containers. I started seeing every major highway not as a pathway of commerce, but as a potential scene of tragedy, and every delivery not as a service, but as a silent transaction of illicit goods. The cargo's curse was no longer just a metaphor. It was a horrifying reality, a systematic unraveling of safety and legality, turning the essential backbone of global trade into a terrifying conduit for crime and profound harm, all for the sake of boundless illicit profit and unyielding power. I knew I couldn't continue to be a passive observer. The thought of another catastrophic accident, or the continued suffering of their exploited workforce, knowing I had remained silent, became an unbearable torment. The chilling reality of Global Freight Solutions, a corporate facade masking rampant exploitation, environmental destruction, and illicit trade, gnawed at my conscience daily. Every overworked driver, every illegal dump, every unmarked container filled with unknown dangers, they screamed for justice. I saw the innocent faces of commuters on the highways, unknowingly sharing the road with ticking time bombs on wheels. I knew I couldn't be a silent accomplice in this destructive operation any longer. My moral compass, though shaken, demanded I act. The final breaking point arrived when news broke of a catastrophic multi-vehicle pileup on a major highway, caused by a Global Freight Solutions truck whose driver had fallen asleep at the wheel. The official report blamed driver fatigue and unforeseen mechanical failure, but I knew the truth. It was a direct consequence of their systemic exploitation and neglected maintenance. The company quickly offered a meager settlement to the victims' families and sealed the truck for investigation, effectively burying the real cause. The blatant cover-up, the cynical disregard for human lives, ignited a furious resolve within me. I had to expose them. That evening, fueled by a terrifying clarity, I didn't go home. Instead, I meticulously compiled all the evidence I had collected. confidential internal reports, detailing driver hour violations, photos of illegal dumping sites, encrypted communications, hinting at bribed officials, and even a log of the special shipments that bypassed standard checks. It was a terrifying risk, but the thought of remaining silent while more lives were endangered was far more terrifying than any threat they could wield. The next morning, I walked straight into Frank's office. My supervisor, a man whose gruff demeanor now seemed to mask a profound weariness. He was barking orders into his phone, his face pale. "Frank," I stated, my voice steady, though my hands trembled slightly, "I'm resigning, and I'm going to report everything I know about Global Freight Solutions." He slowly hung up the phone, his eyes narrowing. "Resigning, Alex, and talking. You are mistaken. You signed a very comprehensive non-disclosure agreement. We have an army of lawyers. Your career in this industry will be over before it even begins. You'll be blacklisted from every major logistics firm. And remember, kid, we move things. Important things. And we have eyes and ears everywhere. You'll find yourself very, very alone, and very, very vulnerable. Be smart, Alex. Be silent." He leaned forward, his voice dropping to a chilling whisper. "Some cargo once seen can never be unseen, and it can weigh you down for life." His threats were chilling, painting a vivid picture of a ruined future and constant danger. But the image of the highway wreckage, the grieving families, and the countless exploited drivers gave me an unyielding resolve. "I don't care," I said, meeting his gaze squarely. "The truth needs to be delivered, and I won't be silent anymore. Not for you. Not for anyone." I turned and walked out, leaving behind the glowing screens of tracking systems, the rumbling of distant trucks, and the oppressive atmosphere of illicit secrets. I didn't look back. I left my ID badge on the reception desk, severing my last tie to Global Freight Solutions. I knew the fight ahead would be long and arduous, a battle not just for my own safety, but for the countless others whose lives were impacted by the cargo's curse. But I had already taken the first, most crucial step towards reclaiming my integrity. It's been a year since I left. I am now actively working with investigative journalists and non-profit organizations focused on supply chain ethics and environmental justice. The work is challenging and often dangerous, but every time we expose a corrupt operation, every time we advocate for safer working conditions or stricter environmental regulations, I feel like I'm finally honoring the true spirit of logistics. One built on responsibility, transparency, and respect, not exploitation. Yet, the shadows of Global Freight Solutions still linger. Every time I see a massive truck thunder down the highway or hear news of an unexplained accident, a cold dread washes over me. The faces of the overworked drivers, the polluted landscapes, the unseen contents of countless containers, they are the true ghosts of the cargo's curse, haunting reminders of the dark underbelly where global trade becomes a terrifying conduit for crime and profound destruction. My experience in the logistics and transportation industry revealed a terrifying truth. The very network connects our world can be a hidden pathway for exploitation and danger. Unscrupulous companies prey on the demand for cheap, fast delivery, turning essential services into a vehicle for illicit trade, environmental damage, and worker abuse. So, how can you protect yourself from the cargo's curse? Always remember to be aware of the real cost of too cheap delivery. Extreme low prices can often hint at unethical practices. Research companies and their practices. Look for transparency in their labor policies, environmental records, and safety rating. Support ethical and responsible logistics providers that prioritize worker welfare, environmental compliance, and legal operations. Report any suspicious activity, unusual delivery patterns, unverified goods, or signs of human trafficking to relevant authorities. Demand transparency from the brands you buy from about their supply chains. And most importantly, if you witnessed dangerous driving practices or suspect illicit activity, do not hesitate to report it. Your awareness and actions can save lives and protect our planet. If Alex's story made you look at your next package a little differently, remember to like this video, share this crucial warning with everyone you know, and subscribe to our channel. Hit that notification bell so you never miss another stark revelation. We'll continue to expose the hidden dangers in every profession. Stay vigilant, stay safe, and remember, not every delivery is innocent.